paranormal that cannot be explained by scientific methods.
Told of a creature that was 6.5 to 7 feet tall.
The CIA ran secret mind control experiments.
It's a tale of a creature that's been seen by many, but believed by few.
And experts say there have been reported sightings of paranormal activity.
And there was this creature, and it ran down this hill.
They say something was flying over their house, and they have no idea what it was.
How the world's most powerful individuals are actually shape-shifting reptilians.
My scariest ghost hunting experience.
Jason and JV.
You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth. You can't handle the truth. You can't handle the truth.
Beyond reality. Radio.
Sometimes it's the normal, sometimes it's the abnormal, and sometimes it is the paranormal, but it's always beyond reality. Welcome to the show. Yes, welcome to the show. A live show, as our chat room is just in disbelief that we actually are live after it's been a few weeks, actually, and I apologize for that. I was in, I took a 10-day vacation or so. I think it was about 10 days, and I have not done that without it being work-related, and it never that long, but without it being work-related for probably, God, I can't even think of the last time. 10 years? Maybe longer? Maybe there's a trip in there, but not for 10 days. But for the most part, any travel that I've done, which I enjoy, by the way. I like traveling for work, and whether it's paranormal stuff or some of the other stuff I do, Scaricon, whatever it happens to be, I really enjoy that. But it's not a vacation. And I finally took a vacation in mid-August, went to Sturgis, actually, the super spreader event, which it wasn't, but that's what they want you to believe. And had a great time in Sturgis. I didn't think I would. I actually thought it was going to be, kind of a lot, just too much work to be worth it. But man, what a beautiful, beautiful event. I took my motorcycle. A friend of mine and I went. We trailered our motorcycles. He has an RV, so we stayed in the RV. We stayed at a gigantic camping facility that had concerts every night. Things like we saw Night Ranger and ZZ Top, and that was all pretty cool. But the motorcycle riding around Sturgis was just fantastic. I cannot even begin to explain how beautiful it was. Seeing things like Devil's Tower and the Black Hills and Mount Rushmore, which we actually didn't do this trip. We had done that on another trip. But spectacular. The weather was gorgeous. The riding was phenomenal, except the fact my Harley developed a problem, which I just got a call finally. I mean, here we are a month later. I finally got a call from the Harley dealership, and it's ready to be picked up, all fixed. So that's good. But the first ride we went on, I developed a problem with the clutch, which kind of hampered our riding for that day. And then it seemed to resolve itself. I was able to ride the rest of the trip. And then the last day, the very last day, we went to take a ride before we loaded up to leave. And the clutch didn't work again. So I guess it could have been a lot worse. But, man, I again, never realized how beautiful. When you drive through South Dakota, you kind of just see nothing but flat grassland. And windmills, by the way. So many windmills. But if you ever have an opportunity to just, even if it's motorcycle or not, I'll tell you, this stuff is beautiful when you're able to do it from the seat of a motorcycle because it's, open air and everything. But even if you just do it by car and you check out the Black Hills and you go through Needles Highway and some of these other places, it's breathtaking. It really, really, truly is. Custer National Park, stuff like that. Really spectacular. So I did that. Came back, and then because of that trip, I recognized a real opportunity, and that's one of the things that's probably a curse of mine, is that I'm constantly thinking about business and the show and other shows and things I can be doing. But I recognize an opportunity for the political show that I do, which many of you know and many of you follow, support, and all those things. And thank you for that, by the way. But the political show is called The Independence Gang. And I recognized that this community that was at Sturgis is very, very, very aligned with what we talk about in the political show. So I talked with Britt Griffith, who is my co-host on the political show, and we decided, hey, you know what? Let's go to the next biker event that looks feasible, and let's broadcast live. So we ended up turning around. There wasn't that much time in between, and going to the Atlantic City Bike Week, which was last week, and broadcast live from there for 4 or 5 days, whatever it was, which was a lot of fun in itself. And we learned a lot about how we can take advantage of these events and take advantage of being in the public and stuff like that. So we're going to do more of that. And we're also talking about doing some of these paranormal events, too, and broadcasting from paranormal events with this show. So a lot of stuff going on. And I understand that it's frustrating when we're not doing shows on a regular basis. I get it. But sadly, I'm kind of a one-man operation. I've got Slick Eddie part-time who helps me out, with a lot of stuff. But Slick has a bunch of different things he does. So I don't always get use of his services. So I've got to do most of the juggling myself. And there's just a lot going on. So I appreciate it. But having said all that, we've got a great show tonight for you. Vince Wilson was on in I think it was early July, and Vince is an investigator and a researcher of the paranormal. He's a seance expert. He's written a book, which I think is called Ultimate Ghost Tech, if I remember correctly, yeah. And when he was on, I thought, again, we ran out of time in the middle of our conversation. I said, Vince, you got to come back on. So tonight is the night that Vince is going to join us again. So I'm looking forward to that. So we'll go to break, and when we come back, we will bring Vince on. We'll begin our conversation. Thank you to everybody for being here as everybody files in to the chat room. Good to see you all. I appreciate you being patient, and I appreciate your support, and I appreciate you coming back. We are going to do more of these, I promise. So welcome back, or maybe you should be saying welcome back to me. Either way, it works, and we'll be right back with Vince Wilson. All right, welcome back to the show. So, chat room, is it absence makes the heart grow fonder or out of sight, out of mind? I don't know which of the two it is, but either way, I see a lot of folks coming back in that I haven't seen in a while. So thank you for doing that. I do want to mention one thing that I forgot to mention in the opening segment of the show. When I was in Atlantic City doing the Independence Gang broadcasts, which, by the way, I'm going to encourage you to find the Independence Gang on YouTube, also Twitch, also DLive. We just started broadcasting there. Also Rumble and the podcast version of the show, and I know I'm missing one there along the way. A Foxhole as well. Any or all those platforms will be terrific if you would subscribe, just to give us the numbers, even if you're not a political show kind of person. But anyway, when I was in Atlantic City, we actually debuted a new program that we're going to start doing with, I think, some regularity. It's still kind of in the kind of drawing board stage, but it's called Paranormal Roadhogs. And basically, the concept behind this particular program, and we actually, believe it or not, have had some interest from one of the cable channels to possibly look at this concept for a television show. But the idea here is that we're combining biker culture and the paranormal. You know what paranormal outings also make great motorcycle riding. Put the two together, do some investigations, and there you have Paranormal Roadhogs. The only place you can really, I think that you can support that at this point, if you want to kind of follow along, is the Facebook page, Paranormal Roadhogs. Anyway, so I'll keep you updated about that project as things move ahead. I tell you, I'm involved in so many. It is quite a juggling act, but I don't know that I'm involved as many as our guest tonight. Vince Wilson is an investigator, researcher. He's a seance expert, among many other things. He's got several websites. The websites include ghosttech.com, posemagic.com, and vincewilsonmagic.com. Vince, welcome back to the program. Great to have you here again.
Oh, it's great to be here. Thank you so much for having me back on, JD.
I think it was early July that you were here last, and I just remember that our conversation was continuing when our time ran out, and I said, "Boy, we got to have Vince back." It was so fascinating to chat. So, what have you been up to in the last couple of months?
Well, as you know, I do. Besides being a paranormal investigator and parapsychologist, I also do magic shows, and I've been doing some of those now that the world is kind of opening up again. People are starting to look for things to do. So I've been doing those as well. Doing magic gives me a better understanding of fraud and fakery to some degree. I think I'm less likely to be hoaxed in those rare occasions when people invite you over because they want to get a TV show or something along those lines. But it does happen.
That is a huge point. And it's one of the things I respect about Houdini so much is that he did set out to demonstrate that so many of the spiritualists of his day were frauds, and he desperately wanted to contact his mother on the other side. But the fact is, and you're absolutely right, there are so many, and maybe it's waned a little bit, but for a while there were so many paranormal groups that were desperate for a television show, watching the other paranormal reality shows. They thought, "Oh, we can do that too," and they would try to fool people into thinking they've got evidence. And I mean, it's one thing as you can use your skills to go on location with these people and tell that they're they're tricks. It's another thing to have people using high tech, Photoshop, Adobe Premiere, After Effects, and all these things, and throwing them into videos. Are you able to detect that stuff too?
Oh yes, and for what I can't detect, I have friends who are even more experienced in those sorts of things, and they can actually look into it pixel by pixel and detect when someone has. There's always tells. In fact, a lot of people don't even know that your camera and software saves data points of information in those images. You can look into the data of the image and find what camera took a picture with it. If it has a timestamp, it'll actually put the time and date in it. All sorts of information is actually saved in the data points, especially mobile pictures taken with mobile phones. Now, if you're honest, these are things you don't have to worry about. You should never even think about it because it's actually data points are things you want to have because it adds credibility to your photographs. But if you're deleting them on purpose, that's suspicious.
Yeah, and that's important. Most people, the data isn't obvious, but it's there. Does it tell you if it's been edited? Does it tell you if two images have been combined? Is that type of thing that you can get out of that data?
With some of those programs, it will drop that information there. Not all of them, but by examining the pictures there's analyzing and there's ways of increasing the depth perception and lighting of the photograph that allow you to see sections and places where it's been augmented. And of course, a picture that's been smudged or imaged or copied and pasted, the pixels aren't going to line up right. There'll be, no matter how good you are at Photoshop, there's always telltale signs that give it away. Always.
There was a video that was circulating. It may have been, I was going to say it could even have been 2 years ago now, which was supposed to have been somebody driving through a Gettysburg National Battlefield Park. And, they had a camera on from within inside a car. and they caught what looked to be a ghostly apparition. When I saw it, I pretty quickly debunked it, and I actually put a little video together and sent it out. Did you happen to see that particular video?
I'm familiar with it. I actually know who filmed it. Yeah, that's the person who filmed it. The thing with Gettysburg is that you never know, is it a reenactor or a ghost of a Civil War soldier. In fact, so many reenactors have been there over the years. Even if you saw a real ghost, is it a ghost of a Civil War soldier or a reenactor who had a heart attack in July? On the battlefield.
Right.
It is such Gettysburg gets a lot of recognition as one of these supposedly most haunted cities in the country. But I would argue that, sure, it's a tragic battle. It's very historic. It's very notorious for its position in American history.
Right.
But the thing is, it's also a tourist trap. There's been huge, significant battles, but the difference between Gettysburg and these other places is that they're not walking distance to the battlefield from gift shops and souvenir stores and ice cream parlors, which Gettysburg has all those things. I guarantee you, if Antietam had a tourist district right in the battlefield, it would be as, if not more popular than Gettysburg.
Right. Well, Antietam was the bloodiest day in American history, if I remember correctly.
That's correct, yes.
Yeah. I love Gettysburg. It's one of my favorite places to go, not necessarily for the paranormal part of it, which is kind of a bonus to me. I'm just a Civil War buff. But all right, so I debunked the video from my perspective.
Sure.
What were your thoughts? If you knew the guy that filmed it, what were your thoughts of that video?
Well, I think I had similar thoughts, that it wasn't I don't know if he necessarily knew that it was probably not a ghost. But it is what is, if I remember correctly, it's been quite a few years since I looked at it. But it's like it looks like an artifact of the limited aspect of the technology available at the time. It's an older video as far as
I'll tell you what I thought it was, and I think I'm virtually 100% convinced I'm right about this because my analysis of it was pretty detailed. But it looked to me like there was a streak of water coming down the windshield, and that streak of water was in the center of the camera frame. And so that streak of water bent the light from the headlights that was reflecting off of all the objects that were, the cannon, the wall, whatever. And that looked like a person running around. It was, you can see the water, you can see the drip, the image follows the drip. It's pretty clear to me that was a water light anomaly that was that the camera was picking up. It's compelling because it looks like someone running around. It almost looks human shaped in nature. But I'm pretty. Again, I would bet
your assessment is correct.
Yeah, I would bet anything that I'm right about that. I really did analyze it pretty closely. And the sad thing about it is when I saw it, I'm like, wow, this is fantastic. But you know what? That's okay. That's all right. That's kind of our job, isn't it, Vince? To look at this stuff and say, we know that 99.8% of this stuff we get is going to be either just misinterpreted or phony, one of the two. But it's that that 0.2% that we get that is really what keeps us in the hunt.
Well, there's in my opinion, there's three types of investigators, and that every investigator should ask themselves this question, and hopefully they get it right. Probably not, but let's go for it. All right. The three types of investigators are the good, the bad, and the sad. All right. The good is someone who's genuinely curious. They want to know. Maybe they had an experience when they were a child. Maybe they grew up on paranormal TV shows like I did, like In Search of, and Ripley's Believe It or Not, and that's incredible, et cetera, et cetera. Ghostbusters and Poltergeist, on and on. Yeah. Or maybe they had an experience. Maybe they saw a ghost when they were a kid, or whatever their motivations were. They are generally interested in knowing. They want to know, is this real? The second type of investigator is the bad. The bad one is those who want a TV show. They're just, all they want to do is, stroke their own ego.
Yep.
And the reason they get into it is because of those reasons. And the sad is kind of like the bad in a way, except they just want to be part of something because of some kind of perceived inadequacy. They don't fit in, and that's not. I'm not judging those people because it's called sad for a reason. I'm not saying it's pathetic. I'm just saying it is, people that just don't seem to fit in, and they think this is a place that they can get empowered by having this previously. Like I know things that other people don't know. I have experiences that no one else experiences. That makes me special, And so these are, those two aspects, the bad and the sad. Neither one is particularly good. I think the bad is worse, because it's part of the reason that paranormal research and investigation and parapsychology, by extension, is not as widely held and regarded as it used to be, and less so all the time. It's by the powers that be, the scientific community, et cetera.
Yeah, there was this actually. I'm going to go back to these TV shows you mentioned in just a second, but I want to piggyback on a point you just made. There was a time when people like Hans Holzer, Lorraine and Ed Warren, and some of these other parapsychologists, I think really how they viewed themselves in many ways. They took this effort to hunt, quote unquote, for ghosts very differently than I think how we perceive it now. And the TV shows like Ghost Hunters, which, full disclosure, I was involved in, or Ghost Adventures, or, Paranormal State, or name your show. It kind of changed it. It took it from what I would say to be a bit of a more academic approach to a more working class approach. Is that a fair assessment?
I think you're correct. It did. To clarify a little bit more, Hans Holzer was pretty close to parapsychology, so he was still a ghost hunter.
Yeah.
And in fact, he identified that way. He liked the term ghost hunter, preferred to be called that. Ed and Lorraine were occultists and demonologists specifically. Right. They probably didn't like the term parapsychologist. They looked at parapsychology as skeptics. J.B. Ryan, of course, is a parapsychologist, one of the original ones. And not a modern one would be Lloyd Auerbach, out in California, for example, as well established. There haven't been many parapsychologists outside of talking head spots. Like every spot I've done on a paranormal TV show has always been a talking head. Yeah. I go in there, I talk about a specific topic they ask me to come on for, and then I'm usually not invited back. But the Holzer Files had gone on for another season. I like to think I might have come back for an episode, but for the most part, talking head spots are what they delegate parapsychologists to for the reason you just mentioned. It's less academic. Yeah. And more, and I actually think that's fine. I think it's okay to do ghost hunting for fun. I've said on multiple shows. I think I said it on your show last time. If you're an amateur ghost hunter, you should not be going in people's homes. You should not be bringing a team of untrained friends and family members into the house of a family. Right. There's ethical reasons for not doing that. People look at going into a home as I graduated to paranormal investigator. No, that's bad. It's you should. Yeah. There's people out there who have decades of experience and that are verifiable. That's another thing is, in the modern world, we have digital trails. There's all kinds. You can Google my name, I come up all over the place. Yeah. You too. Of course. Yep. It's like, so there's verifiable data points you can look up. You can look up people online and find out is this person actually experienced. They actually know what I'm talking about. If you look someone up who says they have 30 years of experience and they're 45 years old, that's bad. And also check them out. Have they lectured? Have they written? Have they contributed back? Have they done things with the experience they said they have? And then if you can find the rare person with some level of experience that could help you, then maybe you can get to some point with enough experience over not a reasonable period of time, have that, have the credibility you need to have that judgment call. Like I said, this family needs help. I'm going to help them out. but you shouldn't rush into that either. There's a lot of people I'm sure there's people right now listening and saying, like, less than pleasant words against me for saying this.
Yeah, I mean, and you're right. And at the same time, I sympathize with the folks who just are eager to get out and do this because they're passionate about it. So it's a difficult, it's a double-edged sword there. I want to talk about Lloyd Auerbach for a second, though, because I've had him on the program. I've talked to him. He's a bit miffed. He comes off at least a little bit bothered by the popularity in pop culture of these paranormal reality shows. He kind of thinks they're dumbing down the science.
Well, he's it depends on.
And I don't want to misrepresent anything he's saying, and I'm not trying to badmouth him at all. I just think it's an important point that he makes about it.
He's correct, and there in that way, the way from the perspective he's looking at, he's absolutely correct. It does dumb it down a little bit, but also as long as it's like there's nothing wrong with going and investigating a haunted penitentiary. Eastern State or Waverly Hills or the Lizzie Borden house or any place in New Orleans, basically, or Gettysburg. There's nothing wrong with going in with EMF meters and that sort of thing. But when people go on these TV shows and they say that this is how this works, this is how that works, this is what this is, with definitive statement,
right?
That's what takes people off, like Lloyd and even myself. When it comes to these those topics, because it's half the time they're wrong. Like the EMF detectors, one of the most popular pieces of ghost hunting equipment.
Yep.
It's often referred to as a thing that detects ghosts, and it was never intended for that.
That's right.
From the very beginning.
I'm glad you're saying that. I'm really glad you're saying. Yeah, I'm glad you're saying this.
It looks for changes in the environment, which may be caused by the presence of a ghost, but it might be the refrigerator on the other side of the wall. And if you don't know what you're doing, that's probably actually what you're picking up is old wiring.
Yep.
And these have to be used with baselines and over hours, and with systematic investigation over a period of days. People worry too much about how many places they can investigate as opposed to how many times they can investigate one place.
I'm really glad you said that. At best, an EMF detector can tell you something anomalous might be happening, but it's certainly not a ghost detector, as some people actually call them and brand them. That's a little frustrating to me as well. I want to go back to these television shows and these pop culture references to ghosts that you mentioned here. You talked about the TV show In Search Of, and I know that in our first discussion back in July, I told you that show too influenced me tremendously, and it made me start to research things like Bigfoot and ghosts and UFOs. And, of course, Eric Von Daniken's Chariot of the Gods was a huge impact on me and piqued my curiosity and set me on this path. The show Ripley's, which I want to get to in a second. But one of the things that I never put together, and I want your opinion on this, is the movie Ghostbusters. Now, it's easy for people to say, and ghost hunters, had this wrath, particularly when it first came out, but it continues today. People confuse Ghostbusters with ghost hunters. They call ghost hunters Ghostbusters all the time, and we laugh about it. However, I never felt like Ghostbusters actually had an impact on me from a paranormal perspective. Like, it didn't make me want to hunt ghosts anymore. It didn't. What are your thoughts? Do you think that pop culture phenomena that is Ghostbusters actually made people think about the paranormal a little more seriously or not?
I think it was. It became part of the pop culture lexicon. It was in the zeitgeist. It's a reference to the paranormal. In the movie, the characters identify themselves as parapsychologists.
Right.
All four of them. There's a famous line at the beginning of the movie where Bill Murray's character literally says, "I have degrees in psychology and parapsychology." But I think people define that or recognize that as a comedy and an action film more than it is a representation. They would look at more like at Poltergeist or or The Entity as if you want to use examples from the 80s of in the 70s and 80s as movies that are representative of the paranormal and supernatural in investigating those topics. Ghostbusters is an easy way for the media to have a little fun and use a reference point that people would know as they're discussing these topics. Even more so than TV shows. Literally every local TV show I've ever been on in Baltimore has introduced me with either, who you're going to call, how about Vince Wilson? And tonight, the Baltimore Sun did an interview with me, did the same thing. It was literally real Ghostbusters in Baltimore. It was in the Wired magazine, also interviewed me and referred to Ghostbusters in the article. So that's completely normal and common.
Yeah, it is a major anchor point for pop culture's understanding and reference to paranormal or ghost hunting in general. You mentioned movies too. This is also, I think, very, very important. I think a lot of this started, if we want to look at a point where really the interest in this topic and the fact that people are going to go out and actually try to gather evidence that supports the presence of some haunting or ghosts, or in this case, possession. A lot of that started with the movie The Exorcist. And I often think that Ed and Lorraine Warren, and I don't know if they ever mentioned this in an interview or not, I honestly have look at some of their work with a bit of skepticism. However, I almost think that the timing of their appearance on the scene had a lot to do with the movie The Exorcist as well.
It probably is a correlation there. The Exorcist was extremely popular because it was a major motion picture that was released internationally and had all this incredible infamy associated with it. Immediately, people were passing out in the movie theaters. They were fainting in the aisles. Basically, and there's a lot of attention to exorcisms for the first time, and the Catholic Church got involved, and it also tarnished the reputation of the Ouija board.
Yep.
Which is, by the way, to your audience, harmless, absolutely harmless. Ouija boards are, in my personal opinion. But the Exorcist actually damaged that reputation for forever. Ouija boards up until that point in the 20th century were harmless board games used for date nights. Yeah,
parlor games, party games.
Exactly, and then after that, it became this portal, and none of that has any faucet in reality. I guarantee every experience that people have about Ouija boards being portals or secondhand information, and if they say they had a personal interaction that was a negative with the Ouija board, my question for them is, you can never know if that was because the Ouija board was there or because you were trying to talk with ghosts in the
That's right. That's right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a tool. It's a tool like any other. If people put faith or even I don't know if blame or responsibility or credit, which of the words is appropriate, for an experience based on the tool they're using, that's on them, kind of. As you just pointed out, it could happen even without that tool. It's just the effort that you're making toward that. But you're right. The Ouija. Let's talk about the Ouija board for a second, because they've been around forever, and it wasn't until, which company was it? Is it Hasbro?
Hasbro owns it now. Parker Brothers before that.
Parker Brothers, right? Started as a game, as a board game. I think I got one when I was like 8 years old. It was like a Christmas gift. And you do that now, and people would accuse you of giving somebody a devil worshipping tool or something.
Exactly. The Ouija board was originally invented in Baltimore in the late 1900s. Although talking boards existed before that, what we all know is the modern talking board or Ouija board was invented by the Emanuel Fudd in the late 1900s, and relatives and friends of his contributed to this. It belonged to Talking Board Company, eventually sold to Parker Brothers, which is now owned by Hasbro. And I like to ask people, do you really believe that the Hasbro manufacturing plant is a coven of witches that curses every board as it comes down the aisle, springing the bits of Stonehenge's dust into the ink on the plastic parts and laminate cover? or do you think it's just? But the truth is, it's just a piece. It's cardboard and paper.
Yeah.
You know, it's like I've seen people use pendulum boards, in similar devices, but as soon as you introduce a Ouija board, you're freaked out. And scared.
Yeah. So let me ask.
I would argue that EVP is more dangerous.
Let me ask you this about the Ouija board, though. Let's put aside the idea that it's a portal to something and it lets things through that shouldn't be coming through. Do you think it can be used as a legitimate tool for reaching out to the other side, or not?
I think it can be used as a legitimate tool as much as any other tool can be used. It is. People ask questions. There's always a stage, and in most investigations, there must be ask questions to the environment. Like, is there anyone here? Please give us a sign, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
And it's just like any other tool. The Ouija board has potential to do something. To have a reaction. There's an argument to be made that because you have humans that have to interact with it, there's a certain degree of contamination with that, because they are touching the planchette and you're allowing their micro muscle movements, et cetera, to touch it, but there's not being ignored for what that is. The pendulums, some of these older types of spirit communication have not been touched on because people got into what's called in parapsychology techno-spiritualism, using technology today, like EMF detectors and voice recorders. And the funny thing is, we're also stuck in a bit of a rut, where the investigators keep using the same old tech over and over again. Modern technology is right here and available now. Like, why are you going on eBay and buying voice recorders when one of the best voice recorders in the world is what your mobile phone can do?
Yeah.
It's like an iPhone's microphone, or even a high-end Android phone, has better microphones than anything you can get independently. Or if you really want to take it up a notch, you have phone jacks in your phone for a reason. You have unlimited storage capacity if you hook it up to the cloud. Why are you getting a voice recorder from eBay that has 100 megabytes of storage space on it or whatever? Bring a laptop, bring a Chromebook, a tablet even. These are better gadgets for doing recordings and even videos sometimes.
Yeah, the quality of video and audio coming from an iPhone, or as you said, some of these other higher-end smartphones, is really quite remarkable. I'm not so convinced that the apps that they try to sell you that are ghost hunting apps are as legitimate.
Oh, no, those are crap.
Yeah, but the recording device and the camera in those phones is actually quite spectacular.
Yeah, the problem with the apps is that every phone that they're designed to be downloaded on pretty much any phone. There's usually an Android in their iPhone model, and the problem with those is that each phone has a different configuration. So you might have your internal gyroscopes, your magnometers, and everything that's built into these phones. Most of them have them, but in every phone model, they're in different placements because no manufacturer makes their phones the same way. So does the app detect that? No, none of those are that sophisticated. They're a few megabytes in size, so they're not analyzing your phone's configuration and trying to adapt the best, way of doing that. You never see an installation on any of these apps where it even looks like it's trying to detect the best place. You would have to go through a configuration point in which you would tilt your phone or move it left or right and that sort of thing to figure out what the best configuration for that phone is, and none of these apps do that. So they're fake for that reason. So sorry to disappoint you, everyone.
Yeah. Again, it's entertainment. It's entertainment.
Some of your equipment, yeah.
It's entertainment. We're talking tonight with Vince Wilson, author of the book Ultimate Ghost Tech. Several websites you can visit to learn about Vince. GhostTech.com, PoseMagic.com, VinceWilsonMagic.com. I want to ask you what you meant about EVP being more dangerous than Ouija boards. Talk to us a little about EVP and what you're referring to there.
All right, so Ouija board has rules, all right? It's like, never use in the graveyard, always say goodbye, et cetera, et cetera. These basic rules. Yet, let me ask you a question. What does every investigator say when after they hit record? What's the first words that come out of their mouth?
Is there anybody with us?
Yes. Do they say a name?
No.
No. See, so in most rituals, if you're going back thousands of years, and every kind of culture that deals with spirit communication, and believe it or not, as sciencey as you think you are doing it, you are still doing a ritual. All right. So, you're going into a place and you're setting up things in a procedural manner and speaking words to communicate with spirits. What is that? It's a ritual. All right. So the Ouija board has ritualistic rules that are supposed to protect you. Ouija board tends to be safer because one of the rules is during a seance is speak the name of the person you're trying to contact. And that could be as simple as I'm trying to contact the spirit of George Washington, Edgar Allan Poe, or even Jack the Ripper, as opposed to, is anyone here? If you're in a house, you could say, I'd like to talk to the previous owner of this house. You're defining rules and guidelines. This could be argued to be more supernatural as opposed to paranormal, and there is a line there. Supernatural being unknowable, like angels, demons, God, and et cetera, while paranormal is plausibly scientific. We just don't know the information yet. That's what that's the difference between the paranormal and the supernatural. However, regardless, if you're already nervous about Ouija boards, you're already delving down that aisle, that alleyway anyway. So rules, ritual, and that sort of thing. So when you contact spirits or ghosts, and you're saying, is anyone here, without defining specifically who you're trying to contact, you open that world up to anything and anyone. So if you're nervous, if you think that demons can show up during your investigation, you're inviting them in. By not defining or making specific rules, you're inviting possibly demonic activity into your environment. If you look at it that way, which wouldn't happen with the Ouija board.
Right.
Ironically, kind of funny if you think about it.
We've talked a lot about, this idea that we can bring something across the threshold that could be malicious, dangerous, malevolent, whatever. But in a more general sense, Vince, what's on the other side that we're talking to when whether we're trying to use a Ouija board or we're trying to use an EVP session or we're trying to use even a K2 meter or an EMF detector? I mean, what are we actually trying to communicate with, in your opinion?
Well, the parapsychologists kind of, a lot of the paranormal community is divided on these. Is it ghosts with unfinished business, which always bothered me, that aspect, because what if I die before I send an email? Am I going to be stuck haunting my keyboard?
Right.
What exactly defines unfinished business? And then you have souls. The concept of soul. If you're investigating souls, like what is referenced in the Bible and other theologies, then you must be doing it for your own curiosity and not proving anything, because that is an unknowable thing by definition of belief. You don't need to know. You believe in those things.
Yeah.
And you're investigating that. You're doing it for self-fulfillment, not really for contributing to a field of research. Parapsychology, on the other hand, would look at ghosts as copies of what we once were. Your soul, goes to its final destination. I'm Catholic, so it's heaven, hell, or you get the extra option of purgatory. All right. That's what happens to your soul. And the Bible is very clear on that. It does not return. It does not come back, does not visit. It goes to these destinations.
Right.
That's it. All right. You don't even get the $200 once you pass go.
Right.
All right. So what's left is the possibility that ghosts are an imprint, a copy of what you once were. Now, I want to put emphasis on this before the hate mail comes in. This is a theory, an opinion, and a possibility. These are not necessarily things that even I believe. I'm just saying, right. These are some of the theories out there that whatever you think a ghost is fine. But a popular theory is that ghosts are some sort of electromagnetic resonance, an imprint on the environment, a copy of what we once were, a brainwave that's been embedded into the area of the haunting. And that could explain a lot of aspects of different types of hauntings. It's like the I give it a French kiss for fixing so many different issues with types of hauntings. Like, why are there different levels? Why are there residual hauntings, intelligent hauntings? Why do ghosts behave in certain ways? The imprint theory covers a lot of those bases. Not all of them, but a lot of them.
What are your thoughts on the idea that hauntings are not external, but they're internal? In other words, whatever that energy is actually affecting, if I'm seeing a ghost, affecting my brain, and I'm seeing it in my mind's eye, not as a physical manifestation in front of me.
But the imprint theory actually covers that. It says that, for example, all right, how does every haunting story start? You never hear realtors being scared out of houses, right?
Yeah.
It's always you move in and things gradually start to happen before you interact with the haunting, right? And that suggests that one of a couple of different possibilities. The two most prominent is that the ghosts need the energy of the living to interact with them, Or the other theory is that literally you're the playback mechanism. The recording is like a tape, like an old-fashioned magnetic tape. I say old-fashioned, and yet that's what I grew up on.
Yep.
But anyway,
me too.
Like a magnetic tape, okay?
Yep.
And you are the player. You're talking about stored memories, stored brain patterns, in the environment, and you are the playback mechanism, and that's why you go in there and you're playing back these recordings by interacting with the environment. So those are two popular theories that may explain certain types of paranormal activity. Not all of it, but a good chunk of the phenomena that occurs out there.
You started kind of this part of our conversation using a tongue-in-cheek example of, if you passed away while you were sending an email and that's unfinished business, would you haunt the keyboard? I think that explains why my typing is so bad. It's not me. My keyboard is definitely haunted. So when I'm typing in chat, folks, it's my keyboard. It's haunted. It's not me when I'm making all those mistakes. Let's talk seances for a second, Vince. We talked about whether it's EVP recorders or we're talking about Ouija boards. These are all tools. Are seances a legitimate tool to make contact?
Sure. Seances have been around as we know them since the 19th century. But spirit communication has been around since there have been people believing in spirits. And seances are a reasonably safe way of trying to communicate with spirits in a controlled environment. People are. Listen, everyone. You are scared of seances because of movies, books, and TV shows, not because of any kind of perceived reality. All right, people have been doing them at least for 200 years. All right, and they are with the right knowledge on how to conduct one. You can do a perfectly safe seance in your home, at a haunted location, and that sort of thing. Remember the rules. Like, I call upon the spirit of Edgar Allan Poe. Within this circle you shall be contained. At the breaking of this, you shall remain in that circle to the breaking of the circle, at which part you can return to whence you came in peace and without harm, et cetera, et cetera. These are, and you can create protective circles and that sort of thing. It's very pleasant and fun experience that can be very rewarding for the participants. But you should always put emphasis on this. Make sure the person hosting the seance, is extremely experienced and they know the proper rituals and wording to use to make sure that your seance circle. If you have someone who's very experienced, you'll never have an issue. If you have someone who's inexperienced, then you might have problems. Realistically, if you believe that's a possibility, then that's probably what's going to happen.
Seances were also, in many cases, a form of a parlor game, kind of like the Ouija board was. But there are some that are very, very serious. What's the difference between the parlor game type and the serious kind?
Well, spiritualism was started by a guy named Emanuel Swedenborg, a Swedish doctor and a bit of a quack who started basically a cult. But aspects of that kind of carried over to Europe and the Americas and became 19th century spiritualism, which was originally kind of a philosophy or even a scientific theory, and which later in the 20th century evolved into a full-fledged religion. But at the time, everyone was doing seances and performing spiritualistic rituals. The idea that the prevalent theory at the time was that when people ask, like, why are ghosts talking to us now for the first time in 5,000 years? The answer was maybe because of the technology that's evolving right now. Maybe we're ready for this now, and they're deciding now is the appropriate time to contact us. And that theory is as good as any other one, I guess. But there's a lot of attempts at spiritualism that lasted all the way through the 19th century into the early 20th century and continues to this day. Ghost hunting today is techno-spiritualism. You're just swapping out tambourines and horns for voice recorders and EMF detectors. And that is the modern day rituals that the people do in the ghost hunting shows. But seances, the difference between the parlor and the serious one is literally as the descriptive words you're using imply. As a serious one is people with a deliberate intention, where they're sitting down with an experienced seance, host or medium who is able to, in this case, medium could be someone who has a sensitivity to the psychic, or someone like myself who is experienced with connecting people in a seance format. A parlor one is where there might be tricks involved, where it's a fun game night where the lights go out and everyone gets spooked. It's just about the intentions of the host or the hosts in this case.
You have studied seances and their history. Do you conduct them as well, Vince?
Oh, all the time. Yes, I'm doing one multiple times. I'm doing several in October, and I actually kind of was pioneering virtual seances during the pandemic. If people are interested in having me do a seance for you or your group virtually or through in person, if possible, just send me an email through ghosttech.com. I'd be happy to reach out.
How do the virtual ones work? I mean, everything is, we're doing everything virtually now. We've got psychics doing psychic readings, mediums doing mediumship readings virtually. Obviously, seances can fall in that category too. But how does it work in that sense?
Well, the theory is that ghosts care not about time and space, the distances between people. It's a factor that does not apply to them, in their current state of being and existence. So what you do is first you have, at the beginning of the seance, the seance host, once again, someone who's experienced this sort of thing, conducts a protective circle ritual, basically one that's more individualistic. You ask each individual to create a protective circle of light around them in the right mindset, usually using a relaxation technique to create a state of mind in which the conscious and subconscious mind is more connected, allowing for a deeper connection to the spiritualistic. And then you call upon the specific spirit you wish to contact in this case. Then you use the appropriate, protective ritual wording, like call the spirit to the circle, and to breaking the circle, until the breaking of the circle, they shall remain within it without harm to anyone present. And then you break the circle at the end, which returns your spirit into the place where it came from. And then you can ask everyone about their individual experiences. And every single seance I've done virtually, people have had experiences. They have felt breaths on the back of their neck.
Oh, wow.
They felt being touched. They felt a presence in the room. They heard voices in their ears. It is an incredible experience when done by someone who knows what they're doing.
So let me get this straight. So if someone had a gathering, let's say they have a group of 6 people coming to their home, maybe, and they want to bring you in virtually to hold a seance for them, that's something you do?
Oh, absolutely, yes.
And so, and I know my audience would be very interested in something like this. So they contact you. I think you said through the Ghost Tech Was it ghosttech.com website? Is that
That's right. That's right. Or just call JB up and he'll reach out to me.
That's right. I'll do that too. We're approaching October here, and October is kind of the unofficial ghost month because it ends with Halloween.
It's the month of Halloween.
Yeah,
exactly. Call it October anymore.
Yeah, right. It's absolutely right. But one of the cases that everybody talks about all of the time, it's probably the most notorious haunting case in at least American history, and pop culture had a lot to do with that, is the Amityville case. Ed and Lorraine Warren were involved in that case in the beginning. Was it Jay Anson? Is he the guy that wrote the book? I think I have the name close.
That is correct, yes.
Yeah.
Jay Anson.
He wrote the book. He was the attorney for George Lutz. He wrote the book based on their testimony. It became not one movie, but it became a series of probably 20 movies at this point, maybe more. What are your thoughts? You must have looked at this from an academic standpoint at some point. And is this a place that you'd like to get in and do some research in?
I absolutely would love to investigate the Amityville Horror House, even though I am fairly convinced, at the very least, it was exaggerated.
Yeah.
There were murders that actually happened in that house.
Oh, horrific!
Tragic, terrible, horrible murders. There was, there are a lot of emotions that were present in that house due to the emotional abuse and trauma that the Ronald DeFeo's father imposed on his family.
Yeah.
DeFeo himself had severe mental illness, and should have gotten therapy and psychiatric treatment and help with his drug abuse that he never received. Not to justify or make excuses for the murders he committed,
right?
Because those were horrible and he was evil for doing them. But nevertheless, there were many opportunities probably over the years of his life in which he could have gotten help and didn't receive it. All those things are true, and they definitely did happen there. But the thing is, there's no precedent for that level of activity in any ghost story. As far as every parapsychologist and researcher in the world, and there's believe it or not, there's libraries, there's academic research libraries that exist where people catalog every investigative story as much as we can get them. And there's no story, unfortunately, as fun as that would be for your horror movie fans out there, of people checking in and not checking out because the ghost killed them at night or attacked them to that degree. If that thing happened on a regular basis, it wouldn't be an argument. We'd be teaching the paranormal in schools. It would be not a debatable topic.
Yeah.
The paranormal might be real, and the phenomena is more subtle than horror movies lead us to be. And if the Amityville Horror has any truth to it, it's definitely exaggerated and at least partially made up. It definitely wasn't built on Native American burial grounds, for example.
Right.
That's a myth.
Did Ronnie DeFeo just die recently, or am I remembering that wrong?
I believe that is correct.
In prison still, yeah. He murdered 6 family members with a shotgun one night, which is the murders you're talking about. It's funny because I watched that house, and I have a sticky note. I've got a little Post-it note on my studio shelf here, in which I've got the address of that house because they've changed the address from the original address because of tourists. But I keep watching it because if it ever goes up for sale, I'm going to raise funds with a group of people, and we are going to buy it, and we are going to investigate it. Vince, I'm going to call you. You're going to come join us when we do this.
Count me in.
Yeah, and we're going to do like a month-long investigation. We'll get a bunch of professionals in there. We'll do everything we can. We'll turn it upside down paranormally, and then at the end of all that, we can turn around and resell it. But I am dying to get in there and investigate it, and mostly because of what you said. I don't think the story is legitimate as it's being told. If anything, it's exaggerated, but boy, I'd love to get in there and see for myself.
Yeah, like I said, it's a good story. And there's some evidence suggests that the belief in something can make it a reality. But people lived in that house since then, and a few people have claimed to have had minor experiences. Some have claimed to have nothing at all happened.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember the family that was in there after the Lutzes. I think it was the Camardi family or something like that. Mm-hmm. And I remember seeing an interview where they said absolutely nothing ever happened to them. But then again, that also can come into play where we were talking about earlier, where it's the energy of the people involved, not just the energy of whatever's happening there paranormally. So maybe they just Maybe they were close to it or didn't draw it out or whatever. I mean, I'm just giving them the benefit of the doubt at this point.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's very exaggerated to say the least, but it's but the reality is something we'll probably never know for certain. Most of the people involved, the Lutzes are the parents anyway, are both passed away.
Yeah.
Ronald DeFeo passed away. I think it was last year.
Yeah.
Maybe. And there's and even some of the kids said it was exaggerated or messed up or made up completely. But they were very young at the time, so maybe we won't know the answers to that either.
Yeah, I've interviewed Christopher Lutz Quarantino now a few times. He's kind of a friend of mine, and I think he's a bit torn. I think he hates to disappoint people when he tells his story, but I think his conclusion or his message is that it was some weird things happened, but the story we know is an exaggeration. What do you have coming up? You're always doing stuff.
Oh, well, like I said, I'm doing. I do a magic show, which is based on the haunted places I visited over the years, where I tell stories of different haunted places I visited through the magic in the show, and that's fun, But as far as the paranormal stuff is concerned, I'm doing multiple seances, and real ones. Not these are. As real as they can be. No tricks or effects or noisemakers or anything like that. It's literally me and some pendulums and a candle maybe. And I'll be doing those in live and in person in the next couple of months. I'll be doing some in Pittsburgh, Ocean City, Maryland, Philadelphia, Baltimore, and possibly New York in November. But I'll be doing some touring seance performances, and I say performances, but these are real seances. They're not tricks. I'll be reenacting traditional seances with some modern spin on it. But yeah, that's what I'll be doing. And if you're interested in me doing a seance for you, just send me a letter. I'd love to do like a big world's largest seance event.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Great people involved.
Yeah, that'd be a lot of fun. That would be a tremendous fun. Is October generally a busy month for you? I imagine it is.
Oh, yeah. It's when all the news people contact me, locally. I usually get on the TV stations in Baltimore with the traditional cliched, who you're going to call, Vince Olson, et cetera, et cetera,
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's very busy in October. But September is getting busier. November I'm already getting people requesting lectures or, October's pretty booked solid, but November is starting to get there too. But weekdays I'm usually pretty good. Weekends are when everybody wants me.
That's right. Once again, let people know how they can get in touch with you if they're interested in a seance or just maybe looking at your schedule or whatever.
Ghosttech.com, VinceWilsonMagic.com has a bunch of links on it to different places. My local Baltimore website for paranormal investigation is Be More Paranormal. That's B without the E. It is letter B Paranormal, letter B More, as in Be More Paranormal. It's a play on Baltimore and just Be More. But BeMoreParanormal.com. But just go to GhostTech.com. That's easier. And you can send me an email from there or a message, or you can find me on social media. Vince Wilson on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. But yeah, send me an email, and if you want to put something together, I'd be happy to help post. And I'm also looking for new parapsychologists. We're looking for. I'm executive director of the American Institute of Parapsychology, and we're looking to train new parapsychologists. So that's something you're interested in. I can put you on a program and help get you your certification in parapsychology.
Do you have to have any particular qualifications to do that, Vince?
You just have to. For many years, parapsychologists only wanted people with degrees in the social sciences, and it's fair. But right now, we're looking for psi field researchers, which is like an amateur parapsychologist. Think of it this way, all right? A astronomer, goes to school for 6 years to learn astronomy, but amateur astronomers, even in high school or younger, they go out and they put a telescope in the backyard, out in the woods or something like that, and they make amazing discoveries.
Yeah.
Without all,
That's right.
And the sci field researcher has the potential of doing that. So right now we're looking for sci field researchers who can eventually become future parapsychologists. As far as qualifications are concerned, we just want you to be dedicated to it, to actually look at the history of the evolution of paranormal thought and ideas, and be open to all sorts of possibilities. And with that kind of dedication, you could be a sci-field researcher and then one day a parapsychologist.
And is that accessible through the same website, Vince? Is it ghosttech.com as well?
You can send me an email about that, or you can just, if you want to, I don't want to confuse people with too many web links.
Yeah.
But it's ghosttech.com. Is parapsychologylab.com is for the official website for the American Institute of Parapsychology. But if you want to contact me directly, just go through ghosttech.com.
Vince, thanks for being here. I always enjoy speaking with you. Please let us know when you have things coming up or anything else that you're working on that you'd like to share with folks. We'd love to have you back on. Absolutely. And remember, ghosttech.com, folks, 2 T's in there, ghosttech.com. So, Vince, take care. October's going to be a busy month for you. I look forward to chatting with you again soon.
Likewise. Talk to you soon.
All right. We're going to take a quick break. It's Beyond Reality, and we'll come back. Yes, we will do some trivia questions tonight. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Scooter, you're just so damn demanding. What did Scooter say? It's been it's almost time for 3 trivia questions. We're so far behind, JV could do a whole show on trivia questions to get caught up. It's kind of true, but we're not going to do a whole show on trivia questions. We're going to do a few trivia questions because I enjoy the trivia as well. I really do. Let's just catching up with some chat things. It's not a new background, Scott. It's been, I've had this background for several months. Anyway, like probably May, somewhere in there. Maybe had to be before that. Had to be March or April. Yeah, we could do an entire show of trivia, but it's not going to be tonight. Well, we could do it. We could do a whole trivia show. That'd be fun. It'd be cool if we could figure out a way that people could submit answers, and kind of maybe do a team thing. I mean, we did have that. We could do that, but the problem with that service we used a couple of times is that it requires you to leave the chat or the channel to go into the app so that you can enter your answer. That's kind of cumbersome. I think they've actually done some upgrades to it. I should check it out because maybe they have a way that it can be embedded. I'll have to look in that. Yeah, I've got a bunch of albums. Let me see. Yes, I've got albums down there. I've got the first 2 levels of the shelves are albums. I have 2 separate album collections. I've got my good album collection, which I don't know. I have a few thousand albums, and they are, and I take care of them, pristine condition. I'm very, very particular about my albums. The ones that I have down here are albums that I took from the radio stations I owned, and if you know anything about radio stations and the vinyl that radio stations have, it's not cared for. It's the hits in particular. They're played so often that they get record burn and cue burn, and then these particular albums, they're stored in a way that's not particularly good. So, but they still play, and I've got a turntable over here, as you all know, because we've used it before, and so I have those albums down here. So that's why they look kind of, I don't know if you can tell, but they're kind of beaten up. My albums in my other collection are not beaten up; they're in great shape. All right, Scooter, BB&B, JV, you want a BB&B? A BB&B with a Zoom B&B where everybody's in it and everybody's getting lit, Scott? That would be curious. That would be very interesting. Oh, cool, Gigi. Yeah, my dad, when I was born, my dad had a record distribution business, and my father was a huge audiophile and had a tremendously elaborate record collection. And when he passed away, my sister and I inherited it, so we split it up. And we actually haven't even finished splitting it up. He passed away 5 years ago now. What, 5? Yeah. 6 years ago now. 7 years ago now. Man. And we still haven't finished doing that. And it's not that big, but it's quite extensive. And we just have had a difficult time, going through that process, as you can imagine. Discorso, it's an app to inventory your discs. Oh, okay. That's cool. No, I'm not. That'd be cool to have. What does it tell you, Scott? What is that app, other than letting you know what you have so you can look it up? What does it tell you? Be interesting to know. Oh, Discogs, not Discorso. I think I've heard of that before. I think it was something else before it's an app. Oh, Rebel. Nothing to be nervous about. We're all friends here. Okay, here we go. I've been looking at this trivia question for months. Well, at least weeks. Who holds the world record for most patents credited as an inventor? Who holds the world record for most patents credited as inventor? Now, I wonder if this is a company or is it a person? I mean, obviously names like Thomas Edison. Oh, that's cool. Tells you what it's worth. Yeah. I mean, I know I have some value, but my dad had some like original Beatle albums and some original blues albums that are particularly valuable. Some Buddy Holly albums that are valuable. Some other stuff too. He had them all in those wrapped in a special kind of plastic thing, but yeah, I'll have to check it out. Let's see. So we have Edison. See, that's a name that would come up. Gene, you don't necessarily need a webcam. It could just be blank, and you just have to have some type of audio communication. I don't know who Eistem is. Is that supposed to be Einstein that just got kind of fat-thumbed there, like I always do? Ben Franklin? Bill Gates. Man, he's starting to look like a sinister fella, isn't he? Yeah, and you can use your phone, exactly, Scott. Who holds the world record for most patents credited as inventor? Bell? Another good answer. Let's see. The answer here is... I have no idea who the hell this person is, and he's from Japan. Shunpei Yamazaki from Japan. He's the president of Semiconductor Energy Laboratory. He holds more than 16,000 patents. Wow. Shunpei Yamazaki. I'm going to show you this name. Yeah. No, it's this guy. Where is it? Oh, my God. Focus. You see that? No. It's too bright. It's because of this. Hang on, let me close this. This will fix it. Let's try it now. Shunpei Yamazaki from Japan. See? No idea. Never heard of him. You know him? Never heard of Shunpei Yamazaki. Oh, yeah, that was sarcastic. Okay, next question. Here we go. What was the first film created and released by Studio Ghibli, the famous anime studio that co-founded by director what is this with the Japanese stuff? Hayao Miyazaki. We're going to blow through this one pretty quickly. Hayao Miyazaki. What was the first film created and released by Studio Ghibli, the famous anime studio co-founded by director Hayao Miyazaki? The only one I know is Heavy Metal. I think that's kind of considered anime. I went and watched that, and I'm like, it was bored the hell out of me. What didn't I get? Are you a fan of the Heavy Metal? I don't know. What didn't I get? Other than it was very erotic in ways. My high school buddy and I went, and we were like, watch this thing, and he was really into it. I'm like, this is the longest ass thing I've ever sat through. The Pokemon movie? That's probably a better guess, Rebel. My Neighbor Totoro, is that a movie, Scott? I don't even know. The Wandering Kid, I don't know. Everybody is naming things that I have no idea what you're talking about. So, again, the question, I'm going to give the answer right away because this question bores me. What was the first film created and released by Studio Ghibli, the famous anime studio co-founded by director Hayao Miyazaki. The answer. You used to watch heavy metal on... All right, so Scott, what am I missing? I haven't watched it since that time I went to the theater to watch it back in whenever the hell it was released with my friend, and I thought it was boring as hell. So what am I missing? Should I watch it again as an adult? Will it mean something else? The answer to this question is Castle in the Sky, 1986. The movie tells the story of a boy and a girl who is being chased by pirates and others for her mysterious crystal necklace, which has connections to the floating city of Laputa. Okay, there you go. That was weird. I crumpled that up and went to toss it into the garbage, and it like disappeared out of my hand. That's very strange. Okay, Scooter, this is your final question. Here we go. What is the natural habitat of the screaming, hairy armadillo? I have a whole bunch of jokes I could make, and I would use Scooter as the target of them, but I won't. I won't do it. There'll be enough jokes in chat, I'm sure. What is the natural habitat of the screaming, hairy armadillo? Yes, that's a real animal, according to this. Yes, that's a real animal, it says. Screaming, hairy armadillo. Oh, my God, too funny. What is the natural habitat of the screaming, hairy armadillo? The desert. The desert. Screaming, hairy armadillo. What is the natural habitat? Scooter, you just repeating what everybody else says? Just asking. I'm not being critical. Tall grass. Appalachian Mountains. The Outback. Florida. Australia. Australia's always a good guess for weird animals. Scooter's backyard. Yeah, I wasn't thinking Scooter's backyard, I'll tell you that. Oh, man. Screaming and hairy. Yeah, 70s porn for sure. What is the natural habitat of the screaming, hairy armadillo? The answer is the screaming, hairy armadillo can be found in parts of Bolivia, Argentina, and Paraguay, and in dry regions with sandy soil. I guess that would be deserts, right? As their name suggests, they are hairier than other armadillos and emit loud squeals when threatened. Sounds like Sacco. Oh, yeah, he's hairier than most, well, except his head, and he lets out loud screams when he's threatened. Anyway, that's going to do it for tonight. Thank you so much for being here, and again, I don't know, I'm not sure what the calendar has lined up here for shows, but we're going to do them as much as we can, especially when we have good guests to bring to you. Other than that, we'll be doing the Independence Gang Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 10 p.m. Eastern on that channel, the Independence Gang channel. And remember, that channel can be found. There's a Roku channel, if you haven't found that, which is kind of cool. But also, YouTube, Twitch, DLive, Rumble, Foxhole, and, of course, the podcast version. So, look for it. Subscribe to it, please, if you would. Just give us the numbers. And if you enjoy political conversation, I think we're in a very serious time of our national history. We have to pay attention to what's going on. Then you'll enjoy the conversations we have on that program. Otherwise, I'll see you here next time. Again, thanks for being here. Love you all. We'll catch you next time.